There's a four-letter word that starts with F that should be the first thing you think of when you want to buy a home in Canada. It's FHSA, or First Home Savings Account. That is what you were thinking about, right? It's one of the most powerful tools first-time buyers have at their disposal, and it's why we've invited this real estate veteran to share his top tips for taking full advantage of it. You don't need to curse high home prices any longer. Help is on the way. You're watching Inside Investing. Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Inside Investing, your guide to leveling up your investing skills with perspective from savvy DIY investors and financial pros. I'm your host, Rob Moise. It's Home Run Week here at TD Direct Investing, where we explore how best to invest for your first home. We've got a ton of masterclasses dedicated to this subject as well, so make sure you check them out and a full list of other events in the Learning Center on Webbroker. Today's episode is all about getting you into your first home a little quicker using the FHSA. And here to share his perspective is a real estate pro who specializes in helping first-time home buyers out. Joining us is Nav Bindra. He's the founder of Grow with Nav. He's a mortgage broker, real estate investor, and entrepreneurial coach looking to help new Canadians in particular build a life of their dreams. Nav, it's wonderful to have you in studio with us. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Yeah, you've got this really interesting business that you've got going on, helping new immigrants in particular kind of find their footing in Canada, which is like an awesome mission. Just tell us a little bit more about it.
Look, so, I'm an immigrant myself. I came here, it was COVID and it was hard. It's difficult to find footing in a new country. And I came here in my early 30s. So it's not like I was in my 20s and I had all the time in the world to, figure out everything. So I just feel that there are more people like that. And that's where I made this niche of helping new immigrants, first-time home buyers buy their homes. And obviously we help other people as well. But, that became my niche because that's who I am. And I have a much bigger dream. Obviously, once you get more established in business, I just want to see more people retire with, a few $1 million. I say $5 billion because that's my number. And I just want people to make the right decisions, FHSA, RRSPs, how to manage all of that. And in context of that, how to buy a home so that you are able to, because eventually you would want to retire mortgage and rent free as well. And that's just the part of the mission. So I just want to see everyone, but, especially new Canadians just accelerate their dreams.
There's so many different acronyms and stuff like that to consider in the investing world. Absolutely. It's kind of hard to figure out where to start. So it's an awesome mission. So glad to hear about it. Of course, real estate is your bread and butter. And I'm really curious to get your take on the Canadian real estate landscape as it stands right now. For years, real estate was often touted, and in many respects still is, as one of the best ways to build wealth in this country. Do you think that's still the case given the slump that we've seen in some of the major housing markets like Toronto, Vancouver?
I mean, it's in the last, so if you look at the last 20 years, the real estate has grown by about over 5%, which is more than the average that you see around the world. Mm-hmm. And Canadian real estate has been like that. We have always had less supply and more demand. But in the last 5 years, it just got sparked by immigration. And we saw what happened in 2022 with, that was the bubble that was created with a lot of pent-up demand, a lot of immigrants coming, a lot of renters coming into the market, students and everything. And with all of that just tapering down and settling down, we now see a slump, and with the economy where it is right now. But I do believe that if you look at long-term, and when I say long-term, I'm not saying 2-3 years. I think that's a fallacy. That's how people think of long-term, but that's not long-term. Long-term for me is 10 plus years. And in 10 plus years, even if you bought at the peak, you'll be okay. We have evidence of that in 2008, 2000, when those bubbles popped, that if you look at 10, 20 years, that long term, real estate has been a great investment, especially if you are buying with an intention of living in it and then passing it on to the next generation. Even if you are building it as an investment as a portfolio as an investor, if you look at long term, 10, 20 years, I still believe that Canadian real estate is here to stay. It's still people. In this world of AI, people will still need housing. They'll still need a place to stay, and there's no reason to believe that it'll not remain a dream.
Yeah, I mean, you can't live in your investment portfolio, right?
Absolutely,
You
you
got to have
can't.
a roof over your head somewhere. So
You either will be renting or you'll be buying, right? So either of those two things.
Okay, and then I think in particular, a lot of first-time buyers are probably eyeing things like, a single-bedroom downtown condo in a place like Toronto, for instance. Those have come off a lot in price. Is this a buying opportunity, in your opinion, or do you kind of sit on the sidelines a little bit? Do you look elsewhere? I'm just curious what your take is.
I talk from a person who wants to live in that home. Let's say they want to buy a condo to live in. If you do that, then it's a good time to buy, because you're not looking at it as a cash flow opportunity. You're not looking at it as a wealth building tool. You're looking at it that, okay, you're paying rent, and I'm not saying that, paying rent is bad. Paying rent is great for some people. But if you are in a position where you are either getting married, expanding your family, having a kid, and you have the need to buy a home, this is a great time to buy. You can get really good deals. Now, will the real estate market stay as is, or it'll go down, or it'll go up? With the oversupply that is happening, especially we see that in the six, especially in downtown, we see there's an oversupply of condos right now, with a lot of pre-construction coming. There is a chance, if the economy stays as is, that it could go down even more. But we don't have a crystal ball, right? And that's where, when we started, we said, when we look at long term, if you are looking at, 10 years, 7 years, 8 years, that's your holding period, then you should be okay. So, it's a good opportunity because you can get your options. You'll not be outbid by someone who wants to pay something crazy because there was a fancy light in that house. Those are the days, right? But at least you are paying something fair for something that you want to live in. Now, as an investor, there's a very different conversation. As an investor, I would not buy something which doesn't cash flow in this market. So if it cash flows, buy it. If it doesn't cash flow, then maybe just hold.
Okay, great food for thought from a real estate guy who watches this stuff really closely, so I like that. But let's get into the heart of our conversation, which is these FHSA hacks that can help first-time home buyers get into their home a little bit sooner. We're going to get into some fantastic tips you have, and if our audience wants to get in on this conversation, and I'm sure you do, and I'd love to hear from you, because I know with housing, it's a hot-button topic. We know there's going to be lots of great questions. Make sure you submit them to us. If you're watching on Webroker, you can use the chat box to get in touch with us. If you're watching on our broadcast platform, it's the questions and comments box. And if you're watching on our YouTube live stream, there's a link in the description that you can follow over to the broadcast platform, and that's where you can ask your questions. All right, now before we dive into the hacks that you have for the FHSA, maybe let's just lay a little bit of groundwork about the account itself. How does the FHSA work at a high level, and what makes it so beneficial for first-time buyers?
So FHSA is an amazing tool. When it came out, I was thinking that what's the catch? This is amazing. Because FHSA, and for those of you who don't know, FHSA stands for First Home Savings Account. So this is for people who want to buy their first homes. And it's best of RRSP and TFSA, which have been investment tools, it has been there for a long time. It's best of both the things, because if you put money and, just start with the basics. So you can put $8,000 a year, and you can put up to $40,000. So you can do it for 5 years, and we can talk about, you can roll it over and stuff like that. But that's about it. $8,000 per year, $40,000, and if you are a couple buying together, you can actually each do 40 and 40. It's best of both worlds, because you contribute to that. Let's say you contribute $8,000, and let's say your tax bracket is 30%, you get 30% of $8,000. So like RRSP, if you invest into RRSP, same way if you invest into FHSA, you actually get 30% back. That's your rebate that you get. And that's amazing, right? And that can be used towards down payment. And I've seen so many people who are in the 50% tax bracket, making $150,000, $160,000, $170,000, and they get half of it back. Imagine doing $40,000 and getting $20,000 back over 5 years, and then that can be used towards your closing cost, towards your down payment, and that's amazing. And the beautiful thing is that you don't even have to pay any taxes on it. And that's why I said it's best of both worlds, like in TFSA. Unlike RRSP, and we can talk about home buyers plan, the beautiful thing about FHSA is you don't even have to pay it back into this account. Once you have bought the home, let's say that 20, 40, whatever that amount was, you use that, you take it out tax-free, and you take out the entire gains tax-free. So if your FHSA, just putting it hypothetically, doubled in, from 40 to 80, you don't have to pay any taxes on the $40,000 gain. You actually take the $80,000 and you put it towards your home, and you don't have to pay it back. You don't have to do anything, and you got the tax advantage of putting the $40,000 as well. And that's the beautiful bit of first home savings account, and that's why I love it. That's one thing that no Canadian who is looking to buy their first home should miss.
Yeah, I mean, the tax rebates are powerful, particularly at higher income brackets. Yes. And if you're savvy and you put that money right back into the down payment savings, it can really go a long way.
You don't even have to invest that money. That's the beauty, right? You don't even have to. If you just keep it sitting in a GIC or whatever, you just got a 20, 25, 30% return on your taxes anyways, right? So that's a return, it's free.
Now, there is some nuance around like the accumulation of contribution room over time. So maybe like walk us through that, because I know you're a believer in if you're wanting to buy a home, you should try to open this account like sooner rather than later. Yes. So tell us, like, why is time of the essence?
So let's say you want to buy a home, you'll not be ready, you have done your projections and you'll not be ready until 2028. And you don't have money to put into your FHSA as well this year. 2026, we are sitting in 2026, right? So I would still encourage people to open their accounts now. Because in 2027, let's say you have additional money coming in, you have an inheritance, you have got a gift, you got a promotion, you got, a bonus. You can put $8,000 for the previous year. So if you are sitting in 2027, you can put the contribution for this year, $8,000 for 2026, and then you can also put contribution for the 2027 year, in which the year that you are in. So you can carry forward your contribution to the next year, but the caveat here is that you have to open the account in the previous year. So this year, if you're not contributing, you still open the account. Next year, you will get $16,000 of contribution instead of $8,000. It cannot be carried forward, indefinitely. It can only be carried forward for 1 year. Mm-hmm. But that's the reason why I always tell people that open your FHSA account, even if you're not contributing to it, open it, and you can just contribute double the next year, and you'll get double tax benefit.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing is like to have to wait for new contribution room, because you can only carry forward 8,000 at a time. So yeah, if you all of a sudden come into money and you can't put it to work, it'd be a real shame. Interestingly, you actually don't even need to use the FHSA to buy a first home. It's kind of good for anybody. Maybe walk us through that thinking, because I think a lot of people would be surprised about that.
So let's say you decide, you open your FHSA and then let me just go the reverse. Some people actually think that they should not open their FHSA because they're never going to buy a home, right? But in my view, I'm 38. In my view, never say never. I never thought I'll come to Canada. There's so many nevers that are happening right now, right? So if you are that person, I would still open FHSA. The reason is that room is not lost. Let's say you actually do not buy a home, or you decided to buy a home and then you actually didn't buy the home. This is not waste. It's not going anywhere. You're getting the tax advantages just like you would, in an RRSP, and then you can roll it over into your RRSP if you eventually decide that, I'm not going to buy a home, and that's okay. And you just roll it over into your RRSP and you just, use it as an RRSP. So there's absolutely no disadvantage of you opening an FHSA, even if you know that you're never going to buy a home. But again, if you're already a first-time home, like I bought my home before the FHSA came. So I, ironically never used FHSA because I just bought it before. So if you are that person, then obviously this discussion is not relevant. FHSA is not relevant for you, and I would not do that. But if you have not bought a home, and if you're not even planning to buy a home, never say never, and just open your account and then roll it over into RRSP if you don't buy it.
Yeah, you're essentially getting like free additional RRSP room. Like who wants to say no to that?
And you are making a contribution to RRSP, and make that contribution to FHSA. Take the tax advantage at least, right? So it doesn't matter, and then you just roll it over into RRSP.
I also didn't have the FHSA when I was buying my home, and I'm a little bit jealous of the people today that get to take advantage of it. Not jealous enough, mind you, to sell my house and go through the whole process again, but still, it's a great account. Let's get into some of your hacks. The first one is that you think that people should be taking a diversified approach to saving for their down payment. Why is that?
I will break down into when you're buying a home, right? So I'll break down the timeline. So I feel that if you're buying a home in the next 18 months, if your projection says that you'll be able to buy a home in the next 18 months, I would not put that into anything other than GICs or cash, like, that those kind of investments, high interest savings accounts, like very safe assets, bonds, like if you want to go there, 3-4% returns, that's fine. The reason is that, we don't know the environment that we are in right now. We just don't know what happens. We just don't know if this, AI surge that we have, what comes tomorrow. It's just impossible to predict that. And like we said, long term you can still predict these things, but short run you just don't know. So that's why you need this money. You definitely need this money for a definite thing, and therefore I don't want to take a risk with that money, and which is why I don't put that money to work if you're buying in the next 18 months. But if your timeline is indefinite, or if your timeline is over 18 months, I would put it in still like a broad market fund, like a total market fund or an S&P 500. That's what I would do. I would definitely not do crypto. I'll not, definitely not put into very high risk small caps. And the reason is simple, right? This is the money that you'll need for a definite thing. And it's as important as a house for your family. I would not risk my money into anything that can actually make a loss, and there's no reason why you would make a loss on this and have to withdraw this money under your contribution. So you put in 40,000, you withdraw 30,000, that's not good, right? So that's my, those are the two things that I always say, that 18 months, put it into bonds at the maximum, and after 18 months, if you have a timeline which is more than 18 months, then you can put it into a broad market fund returning 8 to 10% long term, and that's my approach.
That's a good rule of thumb to consider. I think there was a time when the home prices were appreciating so quickly that a lot of people were scared. I'm never going to be able to afford a home. Like, I have to take a lot of risk just to keep up with the pace of these increases, and you don't want to miss out. Of course, this recent sort of price drop shows maybe that's not quite the case, right? Home prices don't accelerate forever.
Absolutely.
You can take some more.
Also, on that point, I feel that when you're buying a home, your biggest asset is not your, like FHSA. Obviously, FHSA helps you get, a little bit ahead. But that's your income, right? You qualify on your income, you have to pay your mortgage from your income. So I feel that there is a lot of importance being paid to the gains that you get, and then you use that towards down payment. That's true if you have a long enough horizon. You double your money in, roughly about 7 years, 6 years, like if you have a long-term horizon, 10 years usually, right? But if you have to buy a house in 2-3 years, your income would be the biggest asset and not the gains from your investments, because realistically it will be a 8%. If you look at historically 8% gain, that will move the needle, but not as much. Which is why I always tell people who are buying a home and planning, we actually plan for our clients for 2-3 years down the line, and we tell them that income is your biggest asset. Work on that and improve that, so that you're able to invest more towards FHS. You are able to max it out instead of just using it half, because that's the money which is left after your expenses.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get to your second FHSA hack, and this is to claim the tax deductions that you get from your contributions right away. This is different from like the RSP, where a lot of people would argue, hold on to those tax rebates until you're making higher income down the line, but you feel like they should be claiming these FHSA ones essentially right away. Why is that? Walk me through your thinking.
So from a tax rebate point of view, you have to apply for the rebates in the year that you contributed. There's absolutely no reason why you would, delay that. From a, if you take out those investments, there is a sentiment that, you should take out RRSPs and FHSAs later in life when your incomes are lower. But if you plan your life well, and if you want to retire well and early, there's a very little chance, there's a chance that you'll actually have more money at retirement. And I believe that if you are getting a rebate now, especially with FHSA, because it's such an important tool to buy your home, your first home, there's absolutely no reason why you would delay that. Because you have to buy a home, if not today, if not in 2 years, in 5 years, in 6 years, in 7 years. If you ever want to buy a home, it's important that you take those rebates in the years that they are available, because that would just contribute to your down payment, and then invest that back into your TFSAs. That can then compound in the next 7-8 years, and then you'll be more ready to buy a home. So that's one strategy that I love. You invest in FHSA, take the tax returns in that year, and max out your TFSAs with that. And that way you are able to, and if you're two people, working in a household, you can actually, like double dip, and you can double your returns from that. So I think that hack is way better, where you use the tax returns to max out your TFSAs.
Get that compounding working in your favor right away. I want to get to your third one. Your third FHSA hack is to prioritize contributions to the FHSA first, then RRSP, then TFSA, and then, hey, if you need leftover in a non-registered account or savings or what have you. There is some difference of opinion on this. We were talking to a couple of investors last week who bought their homes in their mid-20s, so obviously they did something right. They were not a fan of the RRSP, and they actually didn't even have it on their list of priorities. So walk me through, why is this priority list the one that you think is best?
I'm not a huge fan of RRSPs as well, in general, right? So like, that's in general, not for first homes. I'm a huge fan of RRSPs for first home, for even FHSA. The reason for that is because, let's say, okay, let's talk about in general first, right? I'm not a huge fan of RRSPs because as you retire, as your the tax rates never go down. I've never seen tax rates go down. Right? Your brackets always increase, right? So you'll always, if history is any evidence, we'll always pay more taxes as we grow older, because that's how taxes move. And if that's the case, then RRSP is a very tax inefficient way of taking money out, because unlike other investments where you have to pay capital gains on only 50% of your gains, RRSPs, you actually are taxed on the 100% of what you take out. And obviously, because you actually got tax advantage in the beginning, because you got, a tax rebate for contributing to RRSP. So it makes sense. And that's why, in general, I don't like RRSP. So after you buy your first home, if you don't want to do RRSP, that's fine. But if you're buying your first home, it's a beautiful tool, both FHSA and RRSP. And the reasons are that you actually get a tax rebate that can directly help you in buying your first home, whether it's your down payment or your closing costs. You get the rebates and you use that towards your first home. It's a time-bound thing. It's a time-bound event that you are doing this for. And a lot of people say that, RRSPs, the way RRSP work, the home buyer plan, I think we are skipping ahead, but home buyer plan, which is the way you take out money from RRSPs when you're buying your first home, that says that you can actually take out up to $60,000 to make a purchase, and that's per person. If you're a two-person household, both of you can take up to $60,000. Now imagine, Rob, I was to give you $60,000, and you could keep that for 15 years, and you can return it back to me after 15 years without paying any interest. Who won in this transaction?
I think most of the time, if you can take out money interest-free in a big lump sum, you're going to come out ahead.
That's what home buyer plan is. And FHSA is even better because you don't even have to pay it back, right? You got the tax rebate, you got the tax-free returns from all the capital gain, you use that for your house, and that's done, right? So that's why, when we are talking about buying a home, just this incident, we need to keep our thoughts and our reservations around RRSP and first home savings account in general terms separate. If you're buying a first home, these are amazing tools because it gives you access to free money. And what you do after that is not, should not convolute with that particular objective.
Well, the concern that they were raising with the home buyers plan or the RSP is like, yeah, sure, hey, it's great that I get $60,000, but now I have another expense that I have to worry about as I'm paying off a mortgage and stuff like that. I gotta pay myself back when I take out this money. Is there anything that they could do to mitigate that concern across that 15 years that they have to pay it back?
I mean, 15 years, $60,000 is not a lot. It's $4,000 a year, and you are actually paying from one pocket to another. It's nothing other than that, right? You're just paying, you're paying yourself. So it's not like you are paying someone else. You are paying your future self, because that's what RRSP is. RRSP, that $60,000, let's say you take $60,000, that $60,000 will compound into something that will pay you in retirement, and you will retire, right? So that is an eventuality that will happen. Or even if it doesn't happen, your kids will, get that, right? So it's not something which is a waste. But the only point that I'm trying to make here is that you are getting free money when you put into RRSP and FHSA. You are getting a rebate from the government depending on your tax bracket, and I would not miss that rebate for anything. Even if it's 15%, 16%, even if the tax bracket is lower, it's still free money. And you only have to pay that $60,000 back or whatever you take out from your RRSPs, and that is staggered over 15 years. And in 15 years with inflation, that $4,000 that you put back in the 15th year, it would not feel like $4,000 because your incomes will increase, your everything will get more expensive, your salaries will increase, you will get more bonuses, you'll grow as you'll get more mature, if you're buying in mid 30s, you'll be closing in on 50, and that would be your peak earning years. And it would not feel like too much. It might feel like too much, and that's where the government came in and said that you don't have to do it until your year 3, and until a few months ago it was year 5, and they might even extend that to year 5. We don't know that yet, but it's year 3. So that's why they're doing that, and that's where I feel that government genuinely wants, with these plans, genuinely wants to help home buyers, which is why I love these.
Okay, fantastic perspective. Thank you for sharing those tips. We got a lot more to get to. I want to pick your brain on just the home buying process in general. But for those in your audience, if you're enjoying the program, make sure you check out TD Direct Investing on our socials. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, you're on Facebook as well. You can scan the QR codes there to check us out. We got a sneak peek at upcoming episodes, some great takeaways from past episodes, as well as a ton of other content designed to help level up your investing knowledge. So check us out. Okay, so Nav, I want to shift to just your general expertise on buying a home in general. A lot of folks who are buying a home for the first time, they naturally are going to fixate on what is the price that I'm paying, getting in at the right time or what have you. But of course, the price that you pay is just one aspect of home ownership. What do you think would be like the driving factors behind actually deciding to buy a home versus just continuing to rent?
I think it's a need. Everyone has a need to buy a home. Why do you buy? The first question that I always ask anyone who comes up to me and say that I want to buy a home is that why? Why do you want to buy a home? I want to buy a home because, some people say that, because everyone is buying, my friends bought, and, it's out of FOMO or out of, what other people are doing. But that's not the right motivation in my view. The right motivation to buy a home, at least if you're buying for yourself to live in, should be a need that is, coming in your life. Let's say you're getting married. Let's say you're planning kids. Let's say you have kids and you're now on your way to get a second kid, and therefore you need a separate room, like another room. And that is the need to get into your own home, which is slightly bigger. Because when you buy a home, there are other expenses that also come with it. Let's say you are living or renting in downtown, and when you're buying a home, your budget only allows you to buy in Etobicoke, like a little bit towards GTA or even further away. Then you would have to commute to work. That also adds on. So I feel that people should look at this decision more holistically, because it's going to change their life holistically. And because it's going to change their life holistically, the motivations around that should also come from our life, because we have to make those trade-offs. Yes, we are moving away. Yes, we are paying more, but we are also getting a backyard for our kids to play in. Or if you have pets, we are getting more space for them, right? So I think it has to come from your personal need, and only then you buy a home. Otherwise, just keep renting. I hate the phrase. I don't like I hate is a very strong word, but I don't like the phrase renting is paying someone else's mortgage. It's not. You're also paying interest. You're paying other property taxes. You're also paying all of that when you're owning your home. Yes. There's a lot, right? Maintenance, right? That's a big one. And yes, so there has to be a reason why you're buying a home, and it could not just be that someone else is buying and therefore I'm buying, and it has to be looked at your life. And then I also think that people pay a lot of attention to interest rates and price and everything, but what they don't look at is their affordability. Because I'll give you an example. If I take two people, person A and person B, person A, let's say, is also supporting their family. They also have kids. They are paying, let's say, $2,000 for both of their kids to go to daycare. Person B is a couple who are double earning income, and they don't have all those, both are earning the same money, but their expenses are a lot more outside of the home ownership. And both of these people cannot afford the same thing, but they'll be eligible for the same thing because their incomes are same, their down payments are equal. They'll be eligible probably for the same thing if they go to a mortgage agent or a bank, but they don't afford the same thing because their lifestyles are very, very different. And I feel that, that's the, after the need, they need to also look at not what they are eligible for, but what they can actually afford, what their lifestyle allows for. And I think those are the two things before we look at even go and look at houses and look at interest rates and fixed, variable, all the buzz that's around home buying. I just feel that these are the two things: need and affordability, not eligibility, affordability. That we need to target first.
Really good food for thought, because I think, people immediately jump to the numbers. But speaking of numbers, I'm going to jump to some numbers. Down payment. How much is like the optimal amount to put down for the down payment in your view?
I mean, I would put 100% if I had that, right? So just putting it out there. But I feel that a lot of people save or wait until they have 20%. And, nothing wrong with that. You should, like if people have a lot of money or if they are, they have inheritance or whatever, is their means, or they have really great jobs and they are saving for that, that's great. What that allows is that you do not pay any, mortgage interest, so you don't have to pay any auxiliary expenses, all that is not there. But if you are doing a less than 20% down, I would recommend that you don't do the minimum down, which is 5% or around about that, depending on how much you are buying. I would say 10% is a sweet spot. And the reason for that is 10% does not put you upside down on your loan. If the market goes down 4-5%, you still have some equity in the home, and it gets you closer to getting to that 20-30%, and it gets you closer. So 10% is a really sweet spot. Plus the mortgage insurance that you pay is almost 1% point lower, 0.9% lower. And that 0.9% on the purchase of your home is a pretty big deal, right? Yeah. So that's, like on a $600,000 home, then almost $5,000 to $6,000 less loan that you'll be taking. And that's not a bad thing. If you're doing 5% versus 10%. Obviously, it goes away completely if you do 20, but it takes a lot of time to build from 10 to 20 as well. So my sweet spot is 10%. I just feel that that's a very optimum spot for first-time home buyers if they're buying, or even for upgraders if they income qualify. They can do that now. That's also possible, and that's, I feel, is a sweet spot, 10%.
I got one more quick one for you, just like 30 seconds left or so. But variable versus fixed mortgage, this is like a really difficult decision to make. A timely one for me because my mortgage is coming up for renewal in a couple of months. So interested to hear your thoughts. Do you have like a rule of thumb on like whether it makes more sense to go fixed or variable?
First of all, we don't know when our viewers are watching this, right? So right now, the way to decide fixed versus variable is that, are you maxing out on your eligibility? If you're maxing out on your eligibility, you have no room for variability in rates. If the interest rates go up, which we have seen in the past, in the recent past, and it just eats up into your overall expenses and household budget. And if you are maxing out on eligibility, fixed is probably the way to go. I feel for most people, I'm generalizing this. It cannot be generalized, but I'm still generalizing it. And variable is the way to go because historically, if you see, there are only 4 or 5 years in the history of interest rates that variable rates have been higher, than fixed rates. So historically, if we look at it, variable makes sense. But again, it comes with the with the variability of economy changing and therefore the interest rates changing and therefore your payments changing within that. And that is not a good thing if you are maxed out on your eligibility. So if you're buying a home below your means, then variable could be a good option. But if you're maxing out your eligibility, in general terms, then fixed is the way to go. Just a rule of thumb that I have for my personal mortgage, if the rates drop under 3.5%, I'll give you a reason why 3.5%, I will go fixed. And the reason for that is that historically, if you see last 25, 30 years, the average of the interest rates are 3.6%. So if it drops under that, I'm historically paying lower than that, and I would, tip towards fixed at that point. We are not at that point. We were getting close to that point, but then, whatever happened in the economy, we are back at around 4%. But, that's my thumb rule. 3.5, below that, fixed. Maxing out your eligibility, fixed. Otherwise, variable is a pretty decent thing to do.
Okay, I was taking mental notes on that.
Yes.
Appreciate the perspective. Really appreciate you sharing your perspective just on the home buying process, all those FHSA tips. Great stuff. We got a lot more to get to, including our live viewer Q&A, so I'm really curious to see what people ask about. But before we get to that, I want to bring in my colleague, Caitlin Cormier, because she's going to show us how to get started investing towards a down payment in an FHSA using TD Easy Trade. Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rob.
Always great to see you. This is actually a really timely time for the TD Easy Trade because there's a great promotional offer on hand right now. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've just launched a brand new look for our TD Easy Trade app. And of course, along with it, we've got a bit of an offer. So it's $100 worth of partial shares for free. Now, both people who use TD Easy Trade before, as well as new clients, can participate. So what you have to do is you have to make sure you have the most up-to-date app. So either download or update the existing app you have. Open up at least one new account. So if you already have an FHSA, you can open TFSA, cash account, RSP. You have to do that between March 31st and June 30th. Once you get the account open, you'll see the offer show up in the rewards section, which I'll show you in a moment. And you can select the 3 eligible stocks that you want to purchase. I have to do that before July 31st. Then make sure you deposit $2,500 at least into the new account specifically and keep it there till July 31st. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's pretty straightforward. I just want to make sure all the little pieces get in there. The other piece is just make sure you have a cash account. The offer will show up when you have a cash account because that's where the shares get deposited into. So again, if you have TFSA, FHSA, get that cash account open and that's where those free shares will be deposited. And I can actually show you where we can find that offer, where it will pop up for you within the app if we just want to hop right over. So I'm sharing my screen now. If you look on the top right-hand side, there's like a little present there, pretty appropriate. If you just click on there, it's going to be the rewards and offers tab, and you'll actually see it's that lovely sushi picture we have here, the 100 free in partial shares. It goes through those kind of key points that I mentioned just a moment ago, and you'll be able to click there to choose your 3 shares that you're going to have that $100 worth of shares purchased for. And then if you want to see where they are once you've actually purchased them, you're going to go ahead and click into your accounts. And then under your accounts, you're going to go to the activity tab. And this is where it's going to show you the transfer in of those 3 different securities at $30.33 a piece value. That's your free offer there. So that's kind of how that offer is working. Really excited. And again, existing clients or new clients, you just have to have a new account opened in order to be eligible.
It's awesome. $100 in partial shares. I'll take them. Every little bit helps, right? When you're saving towards a down payment. Easy Trade, new look. Why don't you show us just a little bit about how to find and buy stuff in the app?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a little bit new. One of the features that happened when we updated it is there's a whole bunch of new securities you can purchase, specifically ETFs. So if we want to kind of figure out how to purchase ETFs within the platform, I'm just going to exit out of my account details. And it's actually even as easy as just at the top of the screen where we have this search bar, you can simply click and you'll notice my search history here is some ETFs. For example, we've got, before it was only TD, now we have other institutions as well. So you do have to do a little legwork outside of the app to figure out which ETF you want to purchase. But once you figure it out, you can simply type it in. So I'll just type it here. If I wanted to go with sort of a balanced ETF, I click search. I'm going to click on this one here. It's going to show me a bit of history, a little bit of kind of detail and fundamental information about this security. But if I'm ready to go and move forward, I just simply click that buy button. Again, it's called Easy Trade, so this should be pretty easy for us. Confirm which account we want to purchase it out of. We choose the price type, and of course, it is partial share eligible. So if I want to put, for example, $500 into this particular security, I can. I don't have to choose a number of shares. It's just going to let me choose a dollar amount, get every dollar invested, and leave my order open good till day. And then when I'm ready, I just go ahead and click review order and submit. So pretty straightforward to get going there. Again, don't have to worry about doing any math or anything like that. Just put in the amount that you want to purchase of the investment and go ahead and you're on your way.
You said the magic words, no math, Caitlin. I love that. Thanks for showing us the ropes. It's a slick-looking app, but check it out if you're saving for a down payment. Appreciate you taking the time, as always, Caitlin. That was Caitlin Cormier. She's our Senior Client Education Instructor here at TD Direct Investing. All right, Nav, the time is upon us. Let's open the floor, take some viewer questions, see what people want to know more about. Let's fire up our first question. What do we have on tap? This one's coming from Malika. Is it possible to make a single $40,000 contribution, I'm assuming to an FHSA, and is it wise to sell shares that are currently in a TFSA and transfer the proceeds over to the FHSA to get that maxed out? So a two-parter, 2-for-1 special, Malika. Well done. What do you think, Nav?
Let's do the first bit first. You cannot do $40,000 all at once. It's $8,000 per year, and the maximum that you can carry forward if you don't make the contribution this year is another $8,000, so $16,000 in 1 year. And if you get to the third year, you cannot make 24. You can only make 16, right? So let's say you did not do it for 3 years, and you do it, you can only make 16 in a year, not more than that, and the maximum is 40,000. So it can take you however long, but those are the rules. The second part was where should you sell your shares? That's not my favorite, option. I never like to sell shares, especially in TFSA, which is such a powerful account where you can just keep the money compounding. But in this case, I would say if you are definite that you are going to buy a home, then it could be worthwhile doing that, especially if you have not invested and it's not compounded already, it's new, it's not grown a lot, then it could be a good strategy if you know for sure that you're going to buy a home in a definite amount of time. It could be a good short-term strategy. But just, on the record, personally, I don't believe in selling TFSA purely because, it's probably the best wealth building tool out there. I know it's not the topic of the discussion, but I'm very passionate about TFSAs. But yeah, if it's a time-bound thing, then sure, you can do it.
So you're a leave well enough alone in TFSA, but there is some tax strategy arbitrage maybe.
Because you don't have to pay any taxes, right?
Yeah.
If it was a non-registered account, you'll have to sell the shares and then you have to pay capital gain. That's a no-no. Mm-hmm. But TFSA is still, even if you have capital gains, it doesn't matter. All you lose is a contribution room for this year, which you get back next year anyways, right? So there's no downside to it per se. The only downside is that you are stopping the compounding from happening in such an important account, mm-hmm. which is TFSA. Mm-hmm. But you are getting a tax advantage here as well. So again, it's compensated by the tax advantage that you get here. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you are filling up the contribution room whenever you can back into TFSA once you are more settled in the home.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so some clever thinking from Malika there. Let's get to our next question. This one from Darcy. Is there any way to start a new FHSA if I've never opened one, but I already own my first home?
No, it'll be pointless, right?
Sorry, Darcy.
Yeah, so you can't, I don't think anyone can stop you because you can go on apps and you can do it, but it'll be pointless. So you'll not be able to use that money anyways, and you'll have to roll it over into RRSP. So yeah, just do RRSP. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hate it. I didn't use it either. Right?
I know. Like I said, I'm jealous. I wish I had the ability to use it too. But...
Okay, so no, sorry. There's one nuance to this. Uh-huh. Now, if you have not been let's say you bought your home, but you put it on rent and you have been living on rent for 4 years. Mm. After that, you can still use your FHSA because then, that very few people know this. But if you have been a renter for 4 years, even if you were a home buyer earlier, you still are considered a first-time home buyer at that point. But very few people are like that, right? So I just wanted to put that nuance because I said never. It's not never, but it's a very small percentage of population who will qualify for that. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. Okay, let's get to our next question, see what else we got on tap. This one is coming to us from Salim. What is the procedure to withdrawing funds from the FHSA? Yeah, what does that look like?
It's easy now. Earlier it was a nightmare when it started, but right now it's very easy. It's a simple form that you need to fill. Some banks ask for, an agreement of purchase as well because you are taking it out for a definite purchase, and that's about it. And then you just, that's it. It takes anywhere between 1 to 3 days. The maximum I've seen is 5 days, 5 working days to get the money out, and that's it. It's a very simple form to fill.
That's awesome. Sweet and simple. I like it. Okay, let's get to our next one. This one from Kamal. You mentioned that RRSP would still be a valuable tool while saving for your first home through the homebuyers plan. Can you explain a scenario where I would contribute to both RRSP and FHSA, or maybe take the rebates from one to contribute into the other and stuff like that?
I mean, you can. You can use the rebates to contribute into the other. No one is stopping us from doing that. I love when people do both because they get the best of both. Let's say you did it for 5 years. You take out $60,000 from RRSP. You take out $40,000 from your FHSA. I've seen people do $200,000 worth of down payment doing this, right? So because you can do $100,000 per person. So even that's possible. I've seen. Obviously, it's not been 5 years, so we have not seen that. But people are doing $120,000 down payments from these accounts, and it's a great thing to do. And there's nothing wrong in using rebates from one to contribute to other, and then get the rebate there's no rule against that. So it's your money, the rebate is your money, and you're free to use it however way you want to, and you can definitely put those rebates to another account.
Yeah, the more rebates, the better, right?
Absolutely.
Pretty much get it to work. Let's get to our next question. This one from John. Is there any scenario, to your earlier point, like a catch, where using an FHSA actually puts you at a disadvantage?
I don't see it. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's an account which is extremely helpful. It's very tax efficient, and there's no downside. Honestly, there's no downside.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of one too, John. So it's not just Nav. Yeah, it's a good account. It's a good account.
Yeah, I'm really thinking hard, and probably if I think for a day, maybe I'll find something, but that's nitpicking, right? So I don't think there's a downside. The only downside that I could think of is that a lot of people actually put their money, and that's one caution, that a lot of people put their entire down payment into FHSA and RRSP, and then when they make a deposit on the home, they have to put the deposit in the next 24 hours, and they cannot take out the money in 24 hours. But that's not against FHSA.
Yeah.
That's just like a strategy that your realtor or mortgage agent should tell you, that you need some money for the deposit in the next 24 hours, and you'll not be able to pull out that money because it takes about 1 to 5 days to get that money. But that's not against FHSA. It's just just the overall strategy.
I actually thought of maybe a potential downside. We were actually chatting about off camera, and this is that if you're buying a pre-construction home, you can't use the FHSA funds for the deposit. You can still use it
Yes.
for the home itself. I guess maybe that would be a little bit of a catch.
Yeah, so the rule here is that let's say if you are buying in 2026, let's say you put the offer on, it's a hot topic right now, April 1st, you put the offer 2026, and you're getting the home in 2028. The rule says that if you take the money out of FHSA, you have to move into the home on October of the next year, which is October of 2027. And if the home is not getting built or delivered, and even if the agreement says that it will be delivered on that day, you don't know whether there will be delays. In that way, you will not be able to pull out money, or you should not pull out money from your FHSA, and you should wait until closing to use that FHSA for your remainder of the deposit, down payment, or the closing costs. So that you can do. I think that's probably the only potential downside of FHSA, that you have the money but you can't use it because you'll not be moving into it, or potentially there could be delays. But outside of that, that's a good one actually.
All right, look at that, John. We tried our hardest and we found something. Okay, let's get to our next question. This one is from Nadine. If I can only contribute a limited amount per year, how should I prioritize between FHSA, RRSP, and TFSA? We talked about this a little bit earlier. If Nadine, only has enough money, should she do like all FHSA and like that's what you can do, or do you like spread them out amongst the accounts?
I would first max out FHSA.
Okay.
And then I would move to RRSP and then TFSA. Like I said, TFSA, if it was in life, I would do TFSA first, right? So because I love TFSA, it's such an amazing wealth building tool for retirement. But if it's for home, then I would max out FHSA first, because you don't have to repay that ever, even if it's at 0%. And then RRSP, because you get the rebates there as well. You get the tax credits, and then TFSA, just for the buying. In life, TFSA comes first. Mm-hmm. But in home buying, first-time home buying, FHSA comes first.
Okay, there you go, Nadine. Thank you so much for fielding all those questions. That's all the time we have. That was fantastic. A great perspective, and really appreciate the FHSA hacks too. This is a great account, and we want to have people make best use of it. And I think what you've done is help them do that. Hopefully you get people a little bit closer to that home ownership dream. But really appreciate the perspective.
Thank you, Rob, for having me.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back again soon. Talk about how much you love the TFSA or something like that.
100%. Would love to do.
And of course, for those in our audience, of course, thank you for tuning in as always. Make sure you check out next week's episode, because we have an interesting one on tap. We got a veteran stock picker who's going to explain his approach to finding undervalued stocks during highly volatile and uncertain markets, like the kind we're seeing today. And he's got some fascinating case studies to share with us. I love story time. I think you will too. Don't miss it. It's going to be a good one. And that's all the time we have for this edition of the show. From everyone at Inside Investing, thanks again for watching. See you all next time.
Have more questions? Check out the links to the right and in the description below.